still lying awake, at 2 a.m. with a racing heart, it's likely because the child inside us is still waiting for a protector who never showed up. We often label these restless hours as just anxiety, or maybe a side effect of a stressful day, but it's actually something much more profound. I mean, we aren't broken, and this isn't a flaw in our character. No. What we're experiencing is a biological SOS. Think of it as a midnight guard duty that we never signed up for. Our inner child is essentially sitting by the window of our subconscious, scanning the dark for the safety they lacked years ago, right? Their little nervous system is still on high alert, trying to do the heavy lifting of an adult they needed back then. It's why we feel that strange sense of hyper-vigilance, even when our doors are locked and our lights are off. Well, we can't just use logic to tell that part of us to shut up and sleep. Logic is an adult tool, but our inner child speaks the language of the body and felt safety. That's why we're going to shift our approach together, with warmth. By the end of our time together today, we're going to share a specific 2-minute nightly ritual. It's a gentle, science-backed habit designed to finally let that inner child stand down, hand over the keys to us, and finally get the deep, restorative rest we've been waiting for. Softly, with understanding. Think about, the last time you were lying awake at 2 a.m., your heart racing because of a deadline or a conversation that went sideways. Gently, we usually try to, logic our way out of it. We tell ourselves that we're safe, that we have a savings account, or that we're respected in our careers, right? But for some reason, that tightness in our chest just won't let go. See, that's because logic is a language our nervous system doesn't actually speak. When we feel that late-night anxiety, we aren't experiencing a rational response to our current adult lives. We're experiencing an echo, a leftover survival mechanism from a much younger version of us. Our nervous system is essentially, stuck in a loop, pacing the perimeter of our mind and looking for external confirmation that the room is clear. The challenge is, you see, that this inner child part of us has no concept of a mortgage, a performance review, or a 401k. Those are just adult constructs. To that younger part of us, stress is just stress. It doesn't matter if the threat is a predator in the wild or a passive-aggressive email from a boss. Our body reacts as if we're being watched by something we can't see. We can tell ourselves we're successful and fine until we're blue in the face. But if that inner child feels unprotected, they're going to keep pulling the fire alarm. They don't need to hear about our career success. They need to feel the sensation of being watched over by someone stronger than they are. This creates a massive disconnect. We're trying to use a dictionary to put out a fire. We keep shouting facts at a part of ourselves that only understands feelings. So, if logic isn't the key to turning off the alarm, we have to ask ourselves, how do we actually bridge that gap? How do we stop talking in circles and finally start speaking a language that our nervous system actually understands?
We need to really realize, that safety isn't a destination. It's not a room we finally get to walk into. You see, it's actually a biological signal we send. For years, right? We've been waiting for the world to stop being scary so we can finally relax. But that's just not how healing works. Our inner child isn't looking for a solution to what happened 20 years ago. They're just looking for us to show up, in the room, right now. This is the fundamental paradigm shift. Most of us are still living as if we're waiting for an apology that will never come, or a childhood redo that just isn't possible. But the breakthrough happens when we stop trying to fix the past and start parenting the present. We have to understand that younger version of us is still standing at the window, watching for threats, exhausted and terrified, because they think they're still the ones in charge of our survival. Becoming the protector we needed means we, the adult us, have to finally step into the room and take over the guard shift. We have to look at that anxious part of ourselves and just say, I'm here now. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, and I've got the watch. You can finally step down. When we do this, we stop being victims of our history and start becoming the heroes of our own biology. We're no longer just coping with old wounds. We are actively rewiring how our body responds to the world. We're moving from a state of constant survival into a state of deep, restorative peace. But here's the challenge. Our inner child doesn't trust words. They've heard us make promises before that we didn't keep, you know? To truly convince our nervous system that the adult us is actually in charge, we have to move past the theory and into the physical. We have to use a language that doesn't require a single word. And it all starts with how we handle the final few minutes of our day. Because as it turns out, there is one specific biological handshake that tells our brain the environment is secure. And honestly, almost all of us are doing it completely wrong. So let's just walk through what we call the SafeHarbor Sequence together, shall we? This isn't just a routine. It's a nightly ritual. A way for us to bridge that gap between the chaos of the day and the deep restoration of sleep. First, we begin with a grounding touch. We simply place one hand on our heart and the other right on our belly. You know, it feels simple, maybe even a little strange at first. But what we're actually doing here is providing physical co-regulation. We're literally holding ourselves, giving our nervous system a warm, steady contact that says, I am here. We're reminding our body that it isn't alone, not in the dark. Next, we move into the physiological sigh. Honestly, this is the fastest way we can manually flip our parasympathetic switch. You know, that part of us that controls rest and digestion. We take 2 quick, sharp inhales through the nose. One to fill the lungs, and a second tiny sip of air to pop open those small air sacs at the very bottom. And then, we let out a long, vocalized exhale. That sound, that deep sigh, it's the universal biological signal for relief. It's the sound of a system, finally, standing down.
Once our body begins to soften, we perform the verbal handover. This is where we talk directly to that younger, more anxious part of our psyche, the part that's been hyper-vigilant all day long. We whisper to ourselves, I am the adult now. I am here, and I have the guard. You are safe to sleep. We're essentially telling our inner child, right, that their shift is over. They don't have to keep watch anymore. We've taken over the watchtower. Finally, we use a sensory anchor to lock our brain into the present moment. We notice the specific weight of the blanket against our legs and the exact softness of the pillow against our cheek. We aren't in the past where the trauma happened, and we aren't in the future where the stress lives. We are right here, in this bed, in this moment. But, you see, as we settle into this newfound peace, we might notice something unexpected. Sometimes, when we finally create a truly safe space, a specific type of memory starts to surface, one we might have spent years trying to forget. And as it turns out, there's a very tactical, almost brilliant reason why our brain chooses the exact moment we feel safest to finally show us our deepest shadows. You know, we really need to remember that healing, it isn't a one-time event or a mountain we climb once and then just leave behind. It's more like a nightly promise we keep to ourselves. When those difficult memories, those shadows, surface in the quiet, we don't have to push them away, right? It's actually a sign of profound progress. It means our inner child finally feels safe enough to speak up. By showing up for these 2 minutes every single night, We're telling that younger version of us, I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. So we invite us all to, honestly, try this nightly habit for the next 7 days. Just 1 week of consistent, intentional safety. We'd love for you to come back to these comments and share how your inner child responds. You know? Does the silence feel a little less heavy? Does your room feel a little warmer? Because, you see, here is the final payoff we're working toward. A night of sleep where we aren't just passing out from exhaustion, but truly drifting off in peace. It's the difference between escaping the day and embracing the rest. We deserve that quiet. I mean, we deserve to feel guarded, even when our eyes are closed. If you found some peace here with us today, and we hope you did, we'd love for you to join our community of healers. Subscribe to Psyche Unveiled, and let's keep uncovering the path to our truest, most settled selves. Together. Sleep well tonight.